Okay, in this video we're going to talk through how to approach AQA English Language Paper 2 Question 2. We'll do this by looking at two extracts from student responses to a set question, so don't forget you can always pause the video at any point if you need time to read through something on screen. The key skills in Question 2 are your ability to interpret the information you've read, so asking yourself, what can I identify, and also what's implied by the words on the page? You'll also need to show your ability to synthesize information. In other words, your ability to draw connections between the texts by looking at similarities or differences and comparing them. The question paper in the exam could ask you to either focus on the similarities or focus on the differences. Let's have a quick reminder of the three main skills for this question. Firstly, you need to make sure you make clear inferences from both of the texts. Secondly, use clear references and/or textual details that directly answer the question. And lastly, you'll need to provide a statement summarizing what links the two texts in relation to the focus of the question. The question we'll be focusing on here asks about the differences in the way London is presented across two texts. What you'll notice from both of the student responses that we'll look at is that they follow the SQI format. This means you're expected to make a statement, include a quote, and then provide an inference. In other words, what you can work out for yourself from the information. Let's start by looking at part of Student A's response. Press pause now to give yourself time to read it carefully, and press play again when you're ready. So as you can see, Student A makes some attempt to infer in the opening sentence as they explain in their answer that there are many exciting things to do. This is a direct inference from the listing of places in the quotation. After the quotation, the words which suggests are used to introduce the inference in this paragraph, which suggests the city has lots to offer people. This inference is then made clear through the addition of, especially those who enjoy the arts, which shows a clearer level of understanding about the type of people who might enjoy London. Student A then uses on the other hand and the comparative quieter, which signals a link to source B, where there's a further clear inference after the quotation in suggesting it is early and the city is only just waking up. Again, the second half of the sentence confirms a clear inference as it takes the initial idea of being quiet and early and links it to the city just waking up. The paragraph then ends with some synthesis by bringing the two sources together and summarizing how London is presented differently in both sources. Making the links with on the other hand and quieter in the answer, and then finishing with a sentence like this, reinforces that key skill of making connections, and this student would be awarded a level 3 for this response, which is 5 to 6 marks out of 8. Now let's look at part of Student B's response. Press pause now to give yourself time to read through their answer, and press play again when you're ready. You can see that this student has answered in a similar way to Student A, but the difference between the two responses demonstrates how to move a clear response like Student A's into a perceptive or detailed response that would achieve a level 4, which is 7 to 8 marks out of 8. Remember here that you're being assessed on your ability to draw connections between the texts, in this case by looking for differences in the way that London is presented. Notice how the same key skills are demonstrated by Student B as we saw in Student A's response. They show their ability to infer meaning from the information given and show their ability to synthesize the information. But to secure the top band mark on the mark scheme, you need to show some perception and/or detail. With that in mind, notice how in the first sentence the answer immediately sounds more precise than Student A's, as it infers London to have many places that are not only exciting, but that are full of culture, suggesting a higher level of thinking. Similarly, the inference offered after the quotation is more perceptive, as it links the museums, theatres and orchestras to people who are looking to immerse themselves in London's art culture. This shows a more insightful interpretation of the information given. Again, the use of on the other hand and the comparative quieter show connections being made between the sources. Student B's references to the text are more carefully selected and embedded, making them more judicious, as the inference of the city waking up is linked to before sunlight, which is then linked to the idea of the streets beginning their bustle. The inference focuses on the idea that the city can be vibrant and busy, but suggests the city, like a person, needs time to replenish. This inference again shows more consideration of the writer's ideas, and is a more thoughtful, more perceptive interpretation, as it uses a wider contextual knowledge of cities waking up to interpret the information being given. What Student B does even more than Student A is really focus in on a lot of detail on specific things, This ability to say a lot about a little really benefits this student. Similarly to student A, the paragraph ends with comments that demonstrate synthesis, but it's more perceptive synthesis because it considers the wider implications, such as stereotypes, by presenting London in this way. We'll leave it there. Hopefully you can see the difference between the two responses. To summarise, in order to be successful in AQA Paper 2 Question 2, you should aim to draw connections between the texts and the focus of the question, be clear about what you infer from each text, use precise quotes and embed them if you can, use comparative language to make links between the texts, and write a lot about a little. Select 3 main differences or similarities and use the SQI approach to structure your response if you're struggling. Why not try out Student B's approach for yourself? You can use the AQA style Paper 2 attached to this pod or any other source material. Good luck!